Yeah, I'm sleepy. Sorry, I was.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about game engines, game loop, talk about game architecture a bit. But first, I want to go over the homework and have some cold calls. So have people come up and talk about their homework response. And then also talk about PA2 and have some people show what they did for PA2 and talk about it and do a little code review. So why don't we start with the first one, the MVC example. Yeah, Todd? Okay. I can. So let's see, I have to go to recent changes. And Todd and MVC, Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, Fruit Ninja. Oh.
Okay.
Fruit Ninja is amazing.
Okay, why don't you come up?
Do we have a marker? Because I like to draw. Oh, sweet.
Here.
Wonderful.
Constant.
Oh yeah, let's get some different colors in here because there's fruit is colored. All right, sweet.
Okay, so the idea is, what's the game? What's the model? What's the view? What's the
is it possible to pull up the?
Oh, I can.
Yeah, yeah.
Want to do it that way?
There we go.
There we go.
Perfect. So I did Fruit Ninja. Is anyone not familiar with Fruit Ninja? All right, so we got a couple people. Fruit Ninja, it's a game that's on iPhone, Android. I don't think it's on Symbian or other operating systems. But it is on those two, and pretty much the idea of the game is to get the most points possible, at least that's the classic version of the game, without hitting bombs. So I can draw a quick little demo. Here's your screen. Oh no, this marker's not doing very well. There we go. It's alright. Here's your screen. You got your score over here. You got your lives left over here. And then you got fruit that comes from the bottom of the screen going up. So you might have like, I don't know, apple, or I'm not very good at drawing fruits. Or what other? Watermelon. Strawberry. Yeah, all those wonderful bananas. That's a good one. Bananas go to the side. But yeah, you have fruits coming up. And what's really nice about this game is that it uses your finger as a blade. So I'd go through and I'd just go whoosh, and I had to cut those two fruits that would fall out the screen. If I missed a fruit, so if a fruit went here and then went out of the screen, I would get a nice little X here. If I get 3 X's, I'm out. There's also bombs
So what
out
happens?
here.
How do you get out?
What?
How do you get out?
So let's pretend at least the classic version, which
Yeah.
I'm describing. Let's pretend these fruits come up.
Yep.
And it like comes up here.
Yep.
Here's a fruit. It goes, and it goes off the screen.
Yep.
I get an X. If I get 3 X's, I'm out.
I see.
I can also lose the game at any point if I slice a bomb. So bombs come out. There's a nice little sound effect. Looks like that. And if I slice that, the game explodes and you lose. Meanwhile, I'm getting points which are calculated in the top left corner here. It goes up and up, up. I get extra points if I get like combos. So if I have like 5 fruits, let's go out like 5 fruits. And I slice all of them at once because I'm just that skilled. It says like 5 combo and it adds extra points to my score. Very aesthetically pleasing. So I can break this down into the 3 separate parts: the model, view, and the controller. I view the model as like the skeleton of the game. So that's pretty much like the text that would be displayed to me. For like the score, for example, that would be part of the model. Although not graphically represented on the like the X's, they could represent numbers. Also, whenever you get combos, the text that's displayed up there, I account for a part of the model. That goes through with the view. There's actually something interesting about the view, because one of the game dynamics of Fruit Ninja is that you can unlock backgrounds and unlock different blades. But these backgrounds and blades are part of the view because you can swap them out at any time, and that does not alter gameplay whatsoever. So I could have, colorful flowers in the background, or like dark sadistic background. I can have any background I want, and that is up to me, depending on the unlocks that I get by completing special like missions, like beat the game or like get 100 with the game backwards or something like that. In addition to that, the blades. You can alter the blades, like you can have like slice the finger to be like a black color or like a blue like butterfly effect or something like that. Again, that's part of the view because it doesn't alter gameplay when I switch it out with different blades or different backgrounds. And the last thing is the controller, and that's mainly your finger. It's again, this is touch input based. You have the game space here. Your finger can't really go out of the game space. Like fruit can exit the game space at any time, but your finger can't move out of the game space. You can't. If a fruit goes down here, you can't undergo and cut it out. But pretty much your finger acts as a blade. The second you put your finger to the screen, you can see the blade starting to form. And it doesn't even have to. It doesn't have to be a fruit there. You can like slice all you want, even without fruit. But obviously, once it makes contact with the fruit object, it will automatically cut it in half. That's pretty much.
Okay, so let's go a little bit more on the model.
Okay.
So if you were going to implement the model just in Java, and somebody else was going to, do all the view stuff.
Okay.
What would have to be in the model? What would the game space be?
Okay. If I strictly was looking at the model, and I was just looking at, let's just get rid of the eraser.
You can have other people too answer. Maybe, let's
Sure,
let somebody else
if
say what the
anyone
game
wants to
space would be for this.
Chip in.
What's the game space and what are the objects? Yeah, sorry?
Well, isn't the game space just what's on the screen and maybe a stack of what's slated to go up on the screen?
Well, so what's the coordinate system for the game space?
X, Y.
I agree with that. I think it is a point
Y?
system.
I'd say X, Y, and Z, because your finger moves back and forth when you're flashing it.
Yeah.
Back and forth?
No, it doesn't go to that dimension.
The game doesn't go that, like your finger is part of the game when you're playing.
But your finger acts as an object once it hits the screen. It's a movable object, so you can
So your finger is only part of the game when it's connected.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the objects in this game?
The fruits, the bombs.
The fruits, the bombs, your finger, and then there's also bananas, which are special fruit that come out from the side. That's only like that's in a different version. It's called arcade, where bananas come out from the side. They go across the screen. If you slice that, you get like special power-ups, like freeze time. There's like the freeze banana, or like double score for like 10.
Or of a fruit?
They have different sizes, so they have a certain
But as far as
size.
the model goes, because the size is just
Okay.
Well, no, the size. Does the size change?
The size doesn't change while it's moving. Once the object appears as a
How about
static
the
size.
orientation? Do they change this way? Do they
They do move around in that. Yes,
Okay,
the
so-
orientation of the fruit changes, but the physical size does not.
Okay. So what do you need to represent a fruit in the model? What do you need? You need in the model. Yeah. So, and if you were to define a fruit class,
Yeah.
what would the instance variables be?
What properties do all fruits have, basically?
Well, that they all have color, but that's not this.
That's a view.
That's not a view, but
If you implement
X,
a
Y.
base for that,
So position.
position. Okay, that's good.
Anything
Yeah,
else
position.
besides position?
Size.
No, I think size is more.
Size is more view.
I don't think so,
Yeah.
because it has
Yeah.
to be colliding.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'll make like a fruit abstract class,
Yeah.
and then classes that extend that for specific fruits like watermelon or banana or whatever.
Yeah. So the fruits definitely have to have a position X, Y. Is there anything else that they need? What about you said they changed the orientation?
Wait, the fruits definitely need to have a size because your finger isn't a point. It's like it has thickness, and you're not trying to go through a point. You're trying to go through like an
But
object.
the question is does the model have to keep track of the size?
I
Or
would
does
say,
the view keep track of the
The view
size?
should keep
I
track of
would
the
say the
size.
model keeps track. Just because, say there's like a huge pineapple, I cut at the very edge, it still gets cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would have to be cut because you have to have a size.
And,
Yeah.
and also, this also brings up an interesting question, which is collision detection. Did my finger touch the fruit? Is that a job of the model or of the view?
Model.
I'd say model.
I didn't know the view would deal with detection.
Well, that was, I'm asking,
Because that was
if the
the
size
internal
was,
game
the size was part of the view, then the model couldn't do detection. So
So
there's another
it's gotta
thing
be,
was.
so if we take it the size, what about the shape?
Oh, wait, let me
Oh,
finish
go
this
ahead.
question. So that implies that there's a set of parts to the model that say, you know, object A and object B, are they colliding? Are they, pardon?
Where's the controller?
Well,
That's passing, like, doing detection and sending.
I would say model.
I think it's a model.
I think it's model because in the model it'd be like, oh, you know, if there's some sort of collision, do like change the representation of that particular fruit.
So picking up on what Violetta said, you probably end up with an abstract class for all the objects because any two objects you can ask, do they collide?
Yeah.
It could be a sword and a fruit, whatever.
A fruit and a fruit could theoretically collide.
Yeah, they may change color or make it.
No, they don't. When fruits collide, they don't do it.
So what about the shape? I mean, if you have a banana and you use your finger to slice it, does it just slice off that part of the banana, or is it? One way you can represent it is you could represent it as a disc, invisible disc with a banana drawn inside. And if your finger touches the disc, it'll just cut the banana in half.
It cuts it in half.
But
It doesn't.
it almost cuts it right in the middle.
Always right in half. It doesn't like do the tip or like all it does right.
So
in half.
so can you tell from playing the game whether or not if you just can you cut the banana in half without actually touching the banana?
I mean, you said
You have to move your finger right next to the banana, not actually hit the banana and have the banana cut in half.
I think they're moving so fast it's hard to tell.
It is hard to tell. I think you physically have to at least touch it in some way, even if it's like a brief, even if it's like brief contact, even if it's like a tangent contact.
So okay, so there's two things. If it's so if it was represented just as a little disc with a figure inside, you just have to touch the disc, it'll cut it. Then you just need the size, because the size tells you the radius of the disc, position and radius. If it's not, what else do you need? I mean, if you're saying what is the model? If the model has to say here's so basically the controller. You said the only input is the finger, right? So the controller is just taking events and processing the events somehow. So so what will you need to store for a banana or for an orange?
Like store in terms of.
In order to tell whether or not you've actually touched it.
If like the class itself would know, I don't know.
So anybody? And what I'm thinking of is you need to store some kind of representation of the outline of the banana, a polygon that trace the outline of the banana.
What it's like hit points. Like, what you want to show us is that you can represent hit points with circles.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe a banana could be representative of a couple of different.
Right. So you could do that. You could have just a few rectangles or circles that cover the banana.
And then
Right. And
each
so.
one's radius or whatever.
Right.
As collides.
And if they're moving quickly, the user wouldn't even notice. Right.
Yeah.
Which is probably a very clever thing to do, much more efficient. Well, actually, maybe not, because OpenGL has really fast polygon detection, so it's pretty easy. It might not be faster. Okay, so then you need collision detection, and what happens? Is there anything else you need? Oh yeah. So if you know the state of the board right now, and then a 60th of a second later, it's going to redraw the screen.
Yep.
How is it going to tell? So you need this update model thing. So what's the update model going to do?
I guess what the update model would do is like we're continuously update the position of these objects. So while they're going through the screen, the game space can display correctly where the fruit is, especially if it's going at these speeds. You can't you need a very high refresh rate, otherwise it might be here and then all of a sudden be here.
Yeah.
So
Now, does it, can you tell, does it look like it's following a parabolic path as if you were to throw it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like it absolutely looks like
So it goes
that.
fast at the top, and the bottom, and
Yeah,
slow
it
at
does.
the
It
top.
goes slows up and it slows up here, which allows most people to get combos when it's at the tip of its parabolic.
And are there multiple fruits there at the same time? Yes, there are.
Sometimes, yeah.
Do they ever collide?
They
And they don't collide.
they don't
They
really
never
They
collide?
kind of just go on top.
they go on top of each other.
They
But
go on top.
But if
No,
you
they're
go-
like throwing one after another.
different fruits have different speeds when they
Yeah.
the first initial velocity. So you can have a fruit that just released gets here, then all of a sudden another one comes skyrocketing.
So they're like photons, they can superposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
okay,
can
that makes
impose-
it easier
They can
to implement.
impose, yeah, they can impose on top.
Oh, okay, Okay, so this is sort of the kind of detail I was hoping for
Okay.
in the description of the model. So when you go back, you can think about your model again and try to imagine if you're going to really write a Java class, what would you need? What would it look like? And now once you do this, you've already got the idea of how to implement. You've got an abstract class with all the objects. You've got subclasses for different kinds of fruit, for the sword. You've got to have a collision detection or intersects. I guess the finger is just, does the blade have to intersect with the finger? Or is it just too fast you can't even tell?
The blade is
The blade is the finger.
Yeah.
No, but it has to be bigger than the finger because then you couldn't see it.
No, it expands when you hit it. The motion, I think it increases.
Well, like
If
there's
it was
like
the size
a
of the
there's a
finger,
drag.
When you put your finger on the tablet, you wouldn't see the blade because your finger would be.
Well, the thing is, there's a slight drag. It's not like it follows your finger. Like it follows your finger, but it's also a
So
slight
it's just
drag.
like it's just like that big.
So like here, let's pretend this is.
No, I can show you the blade.
Let's pretend this is the blade.
Okay.
Do it so I can see that.
So like here's my finger. Let's pretend the second I touch the screen, it extends like this. So it's gonna do something like this, where it's gonna draw, and then this starts slowly evaporating.
Oh, okay.
while
I
it's
see.
Okay.
So it's like there's like a
So
phase.
you can track.
I can do like this,
I see.
that,
I
this,
see.
that,
It's
this.
visual track.
I
It's
can
not
like I can
I
do
was
multiple
imagining a
fingers.
samurai blade.
Oh, I see, okay.
Oh,
No.
no, it's just your finger.
Okay, so
Okay.
basically the fun becomes we go
Yeah.
So then you just need the point really.
like
You
the
need-
airplane landing game and all those other games.
So you don't need an intersection of two complex objects. You just need, does a certain point
At a
intersect
certain point.
an object?
Yeah.
Right, so that's
So
a
the
simple
extension
thing.
of the blade is not cut. Only the tip of the blade cuts.
Yes. Yes. Only the tip of the blade cuts. The extension does not cut.
Okay, and then
The extension is just for like
where
aesthetics.
they're cut for like, long enough where you see them get cut.
Got it.
By
Okay.
the after effect.
so then it looks like what the model would do is it would at regular intervals launch fruits.
Yep.
Some randomly or somehow select a fruit to launch a fruit with a given velocity in a given direction, and then keep track. And then there's an event. There's an event handler for when the finger is moving, right? And every time the finger has moved, it would check has the finger intersected, and it would also have to draw that trail.
Yeah.
So actually, the trail, I guess, is a graphical object too.
The
But
model's
that's
not doing that.
but that no, the
The model's
model,
drawing.
no, the model, because that has to the view would have to know how to draw how long the trail is.
Right.
So it would have to have some representation.
Representation, yes, but not drawing.
I
No, it
agree.
wouldn't draw, but I have to say there's a trail from here to here.
Yeah.
There's a trail. The trail, so that's another object. Is a trail object.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Doesn't the trail last just like a particular distance? So it could
Yeah.
just be part of the view. The view knows that you're like the model just tells it where the finger is. The view just.
If
draws
that's
it
really
somewhere.
true, but it looks like we're looking at here that when you move your finger fast, you got a long trail. If you move it slow, you get a short trail.
You actually create a
So actually the trail-
essentially that's then being rendered onto the view.
Yeah, then it's definitely.
So I think it would be like the last 50 milliseconds of path is drawn, something like that. So then you can start to see how you would create the model, and then what the render method, the main render method with the draw the screen, would say update the model, advance it to 60 per second, and then go through this has to be an array list of the fruit, and draws that, and also the path. That's the sword path is there. It draws the sword path. What about explosions? Do the bombs explode?
Yeah.
I mean, they
And they vibrate.
that's like I think it's more view based because like the second it touches the bomb, and the bomb theoretically like it takes over the screen, like it has like a sound effect, it vibrates, and then it's like.
And
takes
does
over the
everything else disappear?
It's pretty much.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really. They fall. I'll refer to it again.
Yeah. That's-
What
I
about
love a
the
graph.
magnifying glass thing?
Has
yeah.
everybody signed the
Yeah,
card?
why not?
We could do that.
When you tap the phone, then there's like light.
Has everybody signed the card?
Mine's called fruit slice, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Fruit slice.
Yeah, that's what I'm using too.
It's the one on.
Is that the free one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fruit Ninja is. Fruit Ninja has their own adaptation on Android that's different than Fruit Slice.
Oh.
It seems
Oh,
to be
yes.
similar.
Yeah, it's
You're the last one.
Oh, I signed. I did
Yes,
on the top.
Exactly. Fruit Slice is slightly
'Cause I
different.
ate.
It's not the exact same dynamic.
Okay, main page,
Bombs,
video conference.
all that stuff.
Now
I
use
mean, I wouldn't
remote.
directly base it off of that because they could be
And then you
slight.
need to turn
There
it
could
on.
be
Is it
slight
on?
differences in terms of the trail. Like Fruit Ninja's trail could be different from
And-
Fruit Slice's trail, even though the core mechanics are the same.
Then use versions.
Please use your remote to
There has
operate.
some-
Oh, no, video. I don't want video
That's
conference.
something.
Main page. Sorry, I
Yeah,
want
exact
doc
same.
cam.
Yeah, like 400 megabits.
Do you,
No,
do you have
Okay,
fruit
here we
ninja
go.
bars?
Fruit.
This is on top.
This is different. This is different.
It looks the same.
I know, but it is different.
Okay.
Oh, it's just
So let's see.
Let's see, Jackie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus 10. Up, combo, combo.
Oh man. Oh man.
Oh, here we
Yeah,
go.
this is so many
Oh.
fruits at the same time.
Oh man, so many
Fruit
fruits.
Ninja is so much easier.
Yeah, Fruit Ninja's for wimps.
Well, wait, does it do the axis thing too? Does
Wait,
it
and
copy that?
That's what it did when I hit
Oh, that
the
was a
bomb.
bomb. So things didn't disappear. I think it actually moved, continued to move a little
Okay,
bit.
on Fruit Ninja it disappeared.
Okay. So okay, great. So for tomorrow, I want you to implement Fruit Ninja. But the model, actually, you could. That would be something you could do. You could implement the model. It's like a 2-hour job. You know, once we've done this and figured out what the operations are, especially if you use this model for little disks representing the thing, because then how do you tell? So if you say a fruit for collision detection is just a series of disks, a little array list of disks, which are their centers and radius, how do you tell whether or not your finger has hit the fruit? What's the algorithm for doing that?
I think you just map the coordinate space of the disk, and if your everything lies within the range of the limits of the disk.
Yeah, exactly. So you just look at the distance between the finger and the center of the disk,
Oh,
and take the distance, the square root of
yeah. I wouldn't say the center of the disc though, because it can theoretically touch any part of it.
No, but what happens if you take the point and a disk, the point is inside the disk if the distance between the point and the center is less than or equal to the radius.
Oh, I understand.
So you just do that little calculation.
That's really smart.
And don't do the square root either. Why is square root there fast? You can do it.
There's a problem with collision detection because you're actually drawing the objects like statically for each frame. So you have, if you're doing a like exact collision detection, you might end up with.
What if you do
objects that
equals?
intersect.
What if you do equals instead of less than?
Yeah, but like, what do you do when they intersect? You might not want to draw them like that. So you might have to move them back. So you might have to simulate what happened. Like instead of going like that, they have to move them again and simulate that the collision occurred.
Yeah, so that's tricky. If you're having collisions that bounce, right, then you're doing discrete time steps. One time step, I may put them into an actual intersection. There's 2 ways to do it. One is that you go back and you say, well, actually 2/3 of the way through the time step they would hit, and then recalculate where the new velocities would be. Or the other way is that you implement them with springs, and you imagine they go ahead and do it, but there's a very tight spring inside each of them, and then it it interpenetrates. The next step, the spring just boom throws them apart.
Or you try to control very precisely the time steps that you actually perform, so that.
Yeah, you're going to do adaptive time steps.
Yeah.
So if they do it, then you go back, reset, and then you take a tenth the size of the time step.
So you're saying when the fruit was hit, if you're implementing it with springs inside, it would know as soon as it's hit to call that method with that type of physics? I mean, the thing.
Exactly, yeah. So you'd say, usually it's controlled by gravity, right? But if there's an interpenetration, you'd say, forget the gravity, now imagine there's 2 springs they're pushing there, and that calculates the force. So there's lots of stuff to do with that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you. And let's go back
There's
to...
also a free version called Veggie Blade that's like made by the same company as Useless. It's just even worse.
Laptop.
They're vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, whoops, so let me go back. Okay, what about PA3 extensions? Anybody want to talk about a PA3 extension? Okay, well, okay, let Jared, we'll let you go. Because you already had some of the time in the limelight slicing fruit.
I just have really good comments on mine, but I just read.
Will you pull mine up?
Yep.
Yeah, Jay,
So front page, is that where I should be going? No, yeah. Recent changes. Hey, how come it's not?
You click Jared
You can
Dunn.
also, yeah, you can also
Where?
click on the
Just-
front page and click on his name.
Where are
Just
you?
click on my name right here. And
Ah,
then
there
from
you
there
go.
you can go
Yes,
to my
fine.
blog posts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which one?
Uh,
PA3 extension, brief description.
Jared, draw a picture.
Okay, good. So you want to tell us?
Alright, so first thing I would add would be like a countdown timer. Because I think if you added a countdown timer, I think that'd really add a lot to the pressure of the game. I said it would kind of add to the anxiety factor that tied in with the flow when we were reading the thing about the flow channel. You all know what I'm talking about. So the first thing, I like the idea of a countdown timer. My second one, can you just move the video? I forget what it was.
Yep. Well, the screen would become a little blurry.
No, that's next. Hold on. Have different weighted discs, so the physics would be different. It'd be kind of like Fruit Ninja. So like you'd have a really heavy discs that you'd have to throw harder in order to get up, or like a really light disc, and they could be different colors. So you wouldn't just automatically know the physics behind each disc unless you were really good. And the final one was, oops, I drank too much wine section, which would happen at random times and make the game harder. So first the timer would slow down because this section would get really difficult. So it'd give you a little bit more time. And then the screen would become a little bit blurry, and the physics would be a little bit more random. And then your actions would be a little bit delayed.
Okay.
I like that one for the part.
I have a quick question
Yes?
about the first one. I thought we already had a timer. Like based off the description I read, it said timer on it. Unless if we can pull that up, because I could have misread it. Maybe it's
I don't
worse.
remember, but I don't think there was a timer.
I think there wasn't a countdown timer, there might have been
A time constraint.
Yeah, not time constraint, but it was a countdown timer that just, so you
Well, yes.
can
Okay, wait. It had to keep track of the time
so you can measure the
That's
velocity.
what you meant. by
because you have to know where you are. So because you have to know, if you say now redraw, you have to know how much time has elapsed to redraw. So it needs that. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
I'll just draw a picture.
Okay.
Blog posts.
So,
I tried using that, but
Yeah.
every time.
HTML.
Yeah.
You have to VR
Yeah,
space.
is that?
It's a line.
It does, but I don't think it works in comments.
No, you can't do it.
Whenever I do it on my
Doesn't
blog
work in
post,
comments.
not even
It works.
comments, but on my blog post it doesn't work.
Yeah, nothing works.
Okay.
in Paris.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so Jeremy,
Yeah.
so Jeremy's going to explain to us
Yeah,
his
Jeremy, next
extension.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh,
That was
so
vicious.
cool.
Okay, so
It's turning into-
obviously we have a new disk which will be able to push these blocks out of the way and break the rules.
Ah.
So if we used a lot of force for this and just hit it this block really hard, what you would end up with is just this, but a layer down.
Oh, we just
There
scroll
would be
down
no
one?
difference. But if you were really smart and you just put enough force in to force the block to go here, let's say, this whole structure would fall apart,
Mm.
and then you could use your other discs in order to get this to a little bit easier.
That's clever, yeah.
Excuse me, I have a question. What would happen if you did the lower block? Would they all fall like that?
Yeah, it would just, if you hit it really hard, it all depends on the physics.
How does the gravity work?
It all depends.
So there's a I'm going to talk about in a minute. There's a 2D physics engine called Box 2D that runs on Android that you can use to implement this kind of stuff. And it basically is it simulates gravity and friction and all that kind of stuff.
And you can just call that.
Just call it. Well, you have to create objects and register the objects with that, and then and it'll simulate for you. Say after so many 10 milliseconds have elapsed, where is it now?
That is so cool.
And have these for a lot of movement and stuff. Yeah, it's very cool. Yes.
I just have a question. Have you thought about what happens if the special thing, the special disc hits the actual red block?
Oh, I was thinking about that would just be game over, but yeah. I don't think that people would.
People would be mad, I think, if they actually did it and they hit it and it wasn't game over.
Yeah.
If you didn't win.
I mean, it's spike ball, and it's not your original disc, so I'm gonna say.
It could be.
Yeah. Chances are, like, I don't know why you would try to use that to go for the jewel though when it's a lot easier.
Maybe lose, yeah.
Yeah.
In the 8-ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good, great, very nice. Yeah. Yeah, please do.
Wait, can I make that quick comment back about the running out? Last rule, right here. Once the user gets all the jewels, or runs out of disc, or runs out of time, the game is over.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
You should show your classmates.
Close reader. Excellent. Closer than even the author.
I have a eraser.
Here.
Okay, you guys. So I thought about not what would be like technically cool to code, but like actually fun to play, and I came up with this idea. So say as you progress through, surely you should like gain some sort of like power-ups or items or something to make the game more interesting. But what would make the game interesting without making it totally unbalanced, but also give you a lot of space for design? Well, so here's the tower that you deal with at first, except now it's green. And here's the thing that you want. What if you can make your own tower, your own leaning tower of pizza, your own battle? So as you level up, you can buy blocks. And then at a certain point in the game, you level up by completing levels. Maybe like in a certain time. Say you buy this like new special type of building material right here that has an elasticity approaching 1. And that means whenever you flick your coin, it will bounce off this object instead of just sticking to it and maybe go in. And that's cool. But what if, in fact, with these new awesome building materials, the levels got harder? And instead of just trying to go in straight up, it might, like the tower itself might be like, have some reflective blocks and some different kind of blocks, and like the challenges get harder, which is why you can build a good tower. But wait, there's more. So I titled my blog post "Adventures in Kinematics." Kinematics being sort of like the basic physics of moving objects. And then I thought, well, AP Physics started off with kinematics, but then moved into electromagnetism. And these coins are made of metal. So in your like super awesome tower that you make, why can't you have like maybe like an electromagnet that you can set up that would like affect the magnetic field and like make your coin swerve as it moves? What if you had to like build an electromagnet and like learn how it worked? What if you were inside a giant electromagnet which created a field? You could maybe see the fields as little crosshatches, and then as your coin goes through, you would see how it is affected by that. And then, as my last crazy idea, pushing the boundaries of what we know to be possible, what if your coin wasn't a coin? What if your coin was the wire itself? And as it passed through this magnetic field, it would induce a force, maybe opposite of which way it was trying to go, and behave in seemingly unpredictable ways, but all grounded in pretty bog standard physics. I would play this game because it would reteach me all the physics I forgot back in high school, and thus ends my presentation.
Okay, don't go. How would you have to change the model to do that?
I would have to add in rules for electromagnetism. I would have to have better rules for collisions, because I'd have to take into account elasticity. I think my model of for every object to be an object, but I think that gravity, magnetism, and velocity should be their own sort of objects as well. And they should sort of store collections of every object on the map should be in, say, like the gravity should be stored into the gravity object or reference to in the gravity object. And then whenever the gravity object is called, it has that collection of things it has to change right there. Does that make sense? I can draw it.
Yeah. So I mean that would be one way to do it. Yeah. You'd want to know. You could either say which objects are affected by gravity, and then have that information stored in the objects, or you could have the gravity object say which things it affects. And it's kind of either way. I don't know which way would be best. And likewise for magnetic objects. Okay, great. Anybody else? Yeah.
Alright, so I had some similar ideas to what Zahar had, like in that I was curious about like how physics would affect things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about what if we had like portals that you could go and like the thing goes through. You say there's a space for a portal here, it comes in here, comes out here. Goes out here.
Like little wormholes?
Yeah, like little wormholes.
How would you make them? Or would you then
You'd
be
use a
able to give
teleporter.
them?
You would change the coordinates to where other portals location.
So like once it hits coordinates, this automatically revert to location of the coordinates.
Yeah, and it would have the same momentum going through.
Mm-hmm.
Jared?
Would this wormhole be delayed? Could you like throw a disc in there at the beginning of the game, and sometime throughout the game it would randomly pop out?
Maybe. There's definitely potential there. I was thinking another idea is you could have moving targets, moving diamonds. So there could be like little birds.
Oh, instead of the block, the static block. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's like skeet shooting. So here comes the bird.
Yeah.
Hit it as it flies across.
Bonus points.
So you shoot the thing. You try to shoot the bird in the face, so it drops the diamond.
Okay, so it looks like there's a lot of potential, and each one of these is going to require some changes in the view, the controller.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, for instance, if we do the hardest thing where you're building towers, you have to have some way of creating, pushing to something to create a block, lift the block up, move it, let go of it, and then in addition to the flicking action.
Yeah.
And then the model has to change. For this one, you need to have another object for birds.
Yeah.
And then they would have to say, after an update, would say, where's the bird go after so much time?
Yeah. You would have to have movement for where it goes back.
Right? And then the view, the idea behind the view is you want the model to have everything it needs to know to draw the view. And the view is just purely saying what shape everything should be, and what color and what texture, and where it goes is from the model. And usually these things, they work by you draw the whole view every time, from scratch. Erase, draw the whole thing. So if you can separate out your game in those three parts where they're really separate, the controller is separate code, the view is separate code, the model is totally separate code, maybe in a different package, it'll make it so much easier to make these extensions.
Yeah.
Okay, great, wonderful. Karen? Yeah.
Is it true the Communist Party?
Yeah.
The Communist Party.
These free moments.
Communism, the party.
You have to have signed. Did you sign the thank you list? Then you get one. Okay.
How many are left?
Tim,
Yes.
can I add one very quick idea?
Yes, please do.
I just got this idea. So let's say that let's say the block is like this. It has a block here. So no, the other side better. So you don't have this, and the balls are here,
Mm-hmm.
like this. So they have to make it like harder to pass through this
Yeah.
thing, but the VSR if the ball this square here. So what I'm thinking is after a few levels, you can you have an option like if you get a certain amount of points or something, and you can swap the thing like change it over the y-axis.
Mm-hmm.
And it would become this.
Oh, so it just flip.
And yeah, just flip, and then it will be easier for you to get to the thing.
Mm-hmm.
if it's better for you at the time, depending on the shape of the tower.
Yep. So I think, if we were to design this game, and maybe we will, maybe we'll make a game. I don't know how we're going to split the royalties. How about we just give it to Brandeis? To support the JDS in the future,
Yes,
right? But for each of these, it's a good idea to think of what's the puzzle, what's the challenge, the problem solving that we're asking people to do, and why is it interesting? And is it rich and deep? And are there sort of secondary strategies they could be using?
Also, there's like a slight issue with the screen size in this program.
Yeah.
I mean, does the screen and the resolution that you have available give you the rich experience that you could get on a larger screen?
Yeah. Well, that's a view issue too. I mean, you could do like Angry Birds where you can zoom in and zoom out, right? And you can have the camera move following it. So those are interesting issues, but there are things you can do about it. Okay, let's go. Let me look at the last one. Okay, game engines. Okay.
Take that.
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
That's a great market we already have.
Yeah, but they probably get copyrighted.
Well, you have to be a little careful about that. Yeah. Okay, let's do. So we have 8 minutes. Let's talk about the third one. Anybody want to do that? Were there any? So how many people were able to make it through the My First Triangle? Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is that we weren't assigned like the beginning stuff. We were just assigned to do this tutorial, but we weren't assigned.
Well, it says work through the introduction to this and work through the example. So maybe it wasn't clear, but what I meant. So if you go here, copy, paste. Right, so goals and features. Audio, file, input, physics, math. Oh. Community support. So that's what we're going to do at 11. From 11 on. I'm going to talk about GDX and Box 2D. And what's that? Yeah. So I guess the things that I wanted you to get out of that were the techniques for linking to projects with the build path, right? So that when and it's a really clever idea that you've got the one version which is just the Java version, and then another version which is the Android, which is just a wrapper around the Java version, right? And if you link them in the build path, it has access to all the packages and classes in the one that's linked. And then also the idea of pulling jar files in. Because what you can do, what we could have done with PA1 was we could have compiled it to a jar file and then linked it into the Android version, like that Maze-Geek thing. I could have done it either way. Either if it's fixed, static, it's not going to change, just put it in a jar file and drop the jar file in. That gives you access to all the packages and classes. Or if it's going to change, then you just link it as another project, linked project, and then you can change it. So those are two really important sort of software development approaches where you're working on a series of connected projects. Yep?
Can I get an explanation of what a jar file actually is?
Mm-hmm. Jar file is just a zip file with a manifest.
Okay.
So, or basically. So if you take a directory, you compress the directory into a single file, and the directory has a manifest which has some information about how to run it. So in fact, if you look at jar file, it has typically it lists what the main class is. So if you do java -jar file, it opens it up, looks at the manifest, sees what the main class is, runs that main class.
Can you uncompress the directory?
Yeah, jar. So just do unzip. Or is it zip or tar? I think
It's zip.
It's zip, yeah. Just unzip it.
So when you unzip it, you get
You get all the class files.
Okay.
None of the source, all the class files. I mean, you can put the source, you can make your own jar file, but it's very handy. So
If you're ever in Eclipse and you sort of see some code that you look at and it shows up all, not source code but like gibberish, it's because it's going to look inside of a jar file that only has class files. And then you can actually have a jar file that also has the .java files, and in which case it will show you the source code of something like libgdx if you follow the breakdown.
Yep. Okay. So, well, why don't we break now? Let's do the German method. Break it 5 minutes till and come back at 5 minutes after. Yeah?
Before you go, I hear that there are still some isolated cases of Git confusion and Git misery. If there is, email me and ask me to give you access to a little Dropbox that has a very, very good 1 hour long video that'll make everything become clear.
Maybe we should just watch the video in class today. Like we could do it at 1.
Well, what are we going to use the Dropbox for?
No, just watch the video.
Oh.
It's a video on Git. A 1 hour tutorial on Git. Everybody get their computers out, walk through it, make sure, because it's there's little. Some people are really getting it. Others are not.
Don't feel bad. It's confusing. I've had to explain it to people. No, 100 times before I quite understood. I've used it for a long time without quite understanding. So don't feel bad. It's tricky. It's tricky.
It's deceiving with all those little creatures on it. It looks like it's all fuzzy-feely.
Yeah. I like this.
It's deceiving.
Okay, so let's take a break. Be back at 5 after, and we'll talk about libgdx and other things.
I have a quick suggestion for the website.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible that like the PA1, PA2, PA3 right column? Absolutely.
What do you want them?
I just put the links on the right column, like the PA1, PA2, PA3.
Okay, you can go to the sitemap. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just never looked there because I just want to go on the home page and click it.
I know. Okay, so we can turn this off.